sound, it would actually be a door closing sound. Like, it was great. You could hook it up to the internet. Oh.
Wow.
And, like, upload your scores to leaderboards and stuff. All this crazy stuff lasted, even I played mine for maybe 6 months because it wasn't color, because of all the other technology that was in there. And, it really wasn't super great. It wasn't super great. That's just how it was. But I had it, and I thought it was awesome at the time. Either of you guys have a Neo Geo Pocket?
I had a friend that had one. I had a friend. That was it.
I was never too interested in one of those.
No.
But I think the biggest... before we go on real quick, we should mention, since we talked about LCD games and Tigers, Tamagotchi, Digimon, those are handheld. Those are in that kind of thing.
Yep.
Digimon being the king.
Digimon
being the king.
Excuse me?
Well...
You could fight each other.
Tamagotchi was the king, obviously, for a few years, and then Digimon came along, and everyone wanted one in school. You had the one kid that had it first in school, and then they were sold out, and you go weeks until they came back in stock.
Yo, they were expensive. They were like $40 too.
Yeah,
they were not cheap. But Digimons were an LCD game, like a Tamagotchi. I'm sure people know what those are, where you actually fought each other. Though you trained a monster, you fought each other before they became this super colorful anime show. It was this little thing made out of bricks. They look like little bricks. And of course I had the ugly brown one.
Yeah, that was the only one that you could find.
Yep. The blue is gone. The blue is gone. So that I think that deserves an honorable mention here. Digimon and Tamagotchi, those are handheld games. But
I've never even seen the Digimon one. Tamagotchi was cool when I was younger, but Digimon I don't ever remember seeing.
You moved on in high school. We were in middle school playing Digimon in the schoolyard.
Right.
That's right.
And Corey, just to let you know, something that we totally missed, like 3 years ago, they totally released like 20th anniversary editions of the original ones, and we missed it.
Whoa.
I would have loved to have had one. But moving on, we're going to go to probably the biggest upgrade ever to handheld, going from like Game Gear and from Game Boy and stuff, was to see the Game Boy Advance in person.
Yes.
Playing certain games, like doing full 3D rendering on that thing was crazy. Not full 3D, like Tony Hawk was like isometric, And I remember that being the first game that I saw and that I bought, and I bought Castlevania as well, Circle of the Moon, and I just feel like that was almost a Super Nintendo. I think that's basically what they were trying to get out of it, was like a Super Nintendo, and it worked great. Again, the audio from that thing, the speakers were really, really loud on it, but again, Nintendo flubbing it, not including a backlight, which means you had to have the shark light.
The backlight came into play with, was it the Game Boy SP version?
The SP is the greatest thing of all time.
Yes, that was the best one of Game Boy Advance. I remember playing Advance Wars. That was the game that we would play, like, after school. We would just drive and park and just play Advance Wars for hours, or play in calculus class and completely fail the test because we were too busy playing video games. During English, when everyone's supposed to be reading, I'm just playing through and leveling up my characters, and that I love Game Boy Advance. It was wonderful.
Game Boy Advance had full-blown RPGs. It had, like I said, pretty much every Castlevania game was good on there. It had cartoons you could watch. Like, you can just buy episodes of SpongeBob. They came in like 3-packs and watch them. They started releasing game compilations on there of arcade games, and I just think that especially the SP, man, especially the SP was probably the best second iteration, like one of the greatest consoles ever as far as handheld goes. It doesn't get too much better than that. Chris, what do you think about that era? Did you have one?
I had a Game Boy, but I had a GBA. I loved my GBA. However, like you said, there's no backlight on it. When it first came out, it's like the Game Gear was 10 years old at this time. And how did you not want to put, like, Nintendo really leads the way, however, sometimes they don't. Right. And I guess it would have cost, driven the cost up some, or maybe it would have had to be a little bigger.
Don't want to hear it.
But that's something that people would want, and I wasn't 2000 when this came out. I graduated high school, like, and I went and bought one. You know, like I used it for college, commuting in college and stuff. And if I had a backlight on that, that would have been so much better. And I would have preferred, you know, a Game Gear at this point in my life. The graphics weren't as good as a GBA, but they weren't bad. You know, they weren't horrible. You had good bright colors. It sounded good. The battery was horrible, but like the GBA, that was did that come with a rechargeable, or was that was still 2 AA's, right?
I think that's when it switched. The original had the batteries, and then later on, I think the SPs actually had the rechargeables.
Oh yeah, it didn't even have batteries, man.
And no battery.
It. Oh, it was so good.
Which was cool.
I do.
But you would hold on. You would have to like charge it. That was the only problem. So it wouldn't last forever.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
The cool thing about this was you could get those adapters and play games and have it be your controller, right? Final Fantasy Chronicles or Crystal Chronicles.
Crystal Chronicles.
Link for Swords, you know, and that was great. Just playing those games, I think you needed to have the Game Boy Advance.
It was great, and it was stupid.
Well, because once you lost the cable, that was it.
No, it was not even that. It's like, why can't I play this game 4 players on my GameCube? No. You all have to have Game Boys. You all have to have cables. And it made the games cool because, like, on screen is the overworld, and when you went underground, you played on your Game Boy. Fantastic idea. Completely unnecessary. And, like, you could have just made a separate window on the screen for something like that, but it would have been, like, a cool thing to do as well. You know what I mein?
Mm-hmm. I have to totally disagree with Doug. Corey,
Whatever.
This was one of the coolest things, and I am not a Nintendo fanboy. I really prefer Nintendo. I prefer everything over Nintendo. But this was such a cool thing. Like, I remember going to Corey's house, playing Crystal Chronicles,
it was cool,
and
man.
everyone had your own screen. You had your own inventory screen on your GBA, and you had to buy a $20 cable and to play. And later on, when we tried to play, you couldn't find them anymore, you know?
Right.
We had to go on eBay or somewhere to buy them. But that was such a cool feature, and it's something innovative that Nintendo was showing so early. You know, like, hey, we can maybe sell more GBAs if we have games that use it. I thought it was a really cool feature. I really enjoyed it, and it made me want to play Nintendo games because I never wanted to.
One game that I know was amazing on there was Pac-Man. When you played Pac-Man that way, they had it set up so that one person was on the GBA as Pac-Man, and the other people were the ghosts. And Pac-Man could see the whole map, and the ghosts had to try to find a trail of where you were to try to follow you and get you. That was so much fun. It was basically like the Wii U version of like the tag. You know what I mean? The tag. But that was really cool. Next, something that I want to say none of us had because we were smart enough not to get it. Often referred to as a taco. The Nokia N-Gage. This was a phone gaming console that you played games on like this, right? Like flat, normal, right? But when you spoke on the phone, you held it this way, like a taco. You put taco to your ear. It actually had, I didn't have this, playing it at the store, it was almost PS1. I was playing Tomb Raider for it, and it looked great. The problem is, you knew they weren't going to do anything with this thing.
Oh, yeah.
There's I'm looking at it right now, there's 12 buttons on one side of it.
It's awesome. It's a phone, too, don't forget. It's a phone.
So you need the numbers.
This is before smartphones. This is like flip phones back here, you know?
Yeah, this is just a total. Like I said, it was powerful, man, and it played good games, but it just didn't fit with the current movement, I guess, of video games and phones. Like, those weren't one yet. You were playing Snake. You were playing Falling Numbers. That's all you were playing on a phone.
And it's a shame because this was. Look at where we are now. Like, I'm playing Pokemon Go. I play Solitaire on my phone. I can always play a game on my phone.
Right.
And 10 years, 15 years ago, this was like 2003, 2004, something like that. Mm-hmm. Like, this should have been so cool back then, but it wasn't. And I think that you said, when it came out, I was like, that's such a sweet idea, but that's not going anywhere.
Right.
You know, and that's a shame because it was such a great idea, especially back then. But
it was, but it just, I don't think no one was ready for that at that time. Next, let's move on. Now we're going to go to the next generation, which spawned basically what we have today as the reigning king. The original Nintendo DS. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing Nintendo DS and being like, why would I want 2 screens? Then I saw that it played Mario 64 and was like, yes, please. I'm going to go get this thing immediately. I got it day one. Mario 64. I think it came with a demo for Metroid, which is weird. It was like a Metroid demo. And I remember playing that and being like, how are they going to do first-person shooter on it? But you use the stylus to aim and one side to shoot, which worked out fantastic, by the way, in my own opinion. Like, if you look back, they had to compromise, but it worked really well. It just worked. So, the DS, I played for quite a while. I got Madden. I got so many games I didn't care about. I got Madden. Like, I don't play Madden, but like I'm playing PS1 version of Madden in my hand. I want to do this. Mario 64 had all these cool mini games with the touchscreen. You know, now we have a console that's backlit. We have a console with stereo sound. We have a console that has the main feature of it, of course, was the touch screen on the bottom, which you used actually constantly in most of the games. Like WarioWare Touch was fantastic, and I think that the DS. Oh, and it had the microphone on it, right? So you could like blow into it for certain. Oh man, it was it was a fantastic console, man. It was really like a super huge step forward. Chris, what do you think about the DS?
I'm already surfing the web because I never had one, so I'm just.
Oh no, the original big gray bulky
I didn't want this piece of junk.
Piece of junk. Okay, that ended the competition in handhelds.
It really did.
What ended the competition? We ended.
No, it didn't.
You could go back to the beginning of this podcast 30 minutes ago, and the Game Boy is what ended all competition for handhelds.
No, in the sense of other people were trying to get into the market still after Game Boy.
Right.
And they failed, but people were still entering. This just stopped. Okay, I would say like the Vita came out, and unfortunately it didn't really take off that well here.
Which we'll get into that because it should have.
Yeah, absolutely, what a great system. But really, just the Nintendo DS, that was just the thing, and I think that's what killed a lot of the early cell phone games. Right. Where that really should have taken off, it delayed that because every kid just wanted a DS. I don't want to play games on my phone. Just get the kid a DS. That's what we would push for. Now, unfortunately, tablets came into play, which I still think DSs really were the way to go back then. This is when I first started, I think, working at GameStop, and I was selling DSs like freaking hotcakes. It was just awesome. So,
it was great, man. It was rechargeable. It could also play your Game Boy Advance games, man. Mm-hmm. Huge. Your library from all of those years of your original GBA to your SP, all of that still you could play. That's huge. It's huge.
It is good.
So, but after that, after the DS.
All right, I want to hold on real quick here, because if we're going evolution, okay. Now I'm just going off on tangent.
Okay,
we talked about the Tamagotchis.
Right.
They came out in 1998. Huge selling points.
Absolutely. Like you find those being sold on the beach. Like those were going.
Yeah, they were everywhere. I had one. Everyone had one.
I didn't have one. I did mine.
That's because you weren't cool. But then after 1999 comes the best console ever made, the Sega Dreamcast. And the Sega Dreamcast has the VMU. Very similar to a Tamagotchi.
Yeah. And it did more than a Tamagotchi.
It did way more. But it also had a game, I think it was Sonic, that was a Tamagotchi.
Yeah, it did. It did have it.
So you had a Tamagotchi, but with more abilities, like with more interactions to your real games, things that you could also then you were playing your regular game and then you take it away and you can still level up your characters or participate in that console game. Right. So I think that's something really, really huge that no one's ever done before, and I don't know why. I mean, why not? But I think that was mobile. I think there's also mobile gaming, handheld gaming in that as well.
There is,
worth
because
mentioning.
I used to bring my VMU to school, and I remember being in biology class with Mr. Fails and sitting